going on, everybody? Welcome to the Filsinger Games Character Spotlight with Mike and Brock.
I'm Mike.
I'm Brock, and we're once again joined by Jeff Manning, whoever that is.
And I'm neither Mike or Brock. How's it going?
Good, good. We're excited to announce that Bruno Sammartino has been added to the Legends of Wrestling roster and will be released at the TNT Hall of Fame set, Volume 5 at Galacticon.
For those of you not aware of the TNT set, is the Tragos and Thez sets. I figure there's probably might be a couple people that are predominantly GWF players or something.
True. I only say it because that's how it was written in the official news release from Filsinger Games.
I did go there last year. It was an interesting weekend. A lot of older wrestlers you get to hang out with and chat with. They were all very friendly. No one was off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
Very Canadian like. Even though it was in Iowa. Did you do the is this heaven? No, it's Iowa.
No, I didn't know that was a slogan of Iowa.
Oh, it's from Field of Dreams. Come on, you're a baseball fan. Shoeless Joe, is this heaven? No, it's Iowa.
Yeah, but they had turned that into one of those license plate slogans or something.
They might have. I've never been to Iowa personally.
I don't even know if they have cars there.
There's a lot of unknown tension between Iowa and Ohio. I mean, we're the only states that both have 4 letters and only one consonant in them. So, a lot of beef.
The one thing I noticed
I made that up.
The one thing I noticed about Iowa as I'm down there, no helmet laws.
We don't have helmet laws either.
That is absolutely insane. There's probably a reason why motorcycle, you guys lead the world in motorcycle deaths.
Well, it's natural selection. The downfall of society is the warning label.
Yeah. Every warning label is only there because somebody did the thing that they're telling you not to do.
My all-time favorite, this isn't really a warning label, but my all-time favorite is I remember when I first went to college, I checked into the dorm room, I got in my dorm room, and there was an instruction right next to the window that explained how to work the blinds. And I was like, how do you get to college and not know how to work a blind?
You'd be surprised.
But there was someone at some point that was like, hey, I really want to look out of this window. How do I do that? It was literally just one with a stick and a string. There wasn't a lot of options.
I feel like we could go off on a tangent about warning labels.
We're going off. We're supposed to be talking about Bruno Sammartino.
Yes.
The living legend.
The Italian strongman, the strongest man in the world. That makes me think of Artie from Pete and Pete, but that was one of his nicknames.
I never got to see Bruno wrestle, but I met Bruno several times. Growing up in the greater Pittsburgh area, he would do a lot of indie show meet and greets and stuff like that. Super nice. Ahead of his time, I feel, in the business. I don't know if he would have been as big of a star if he came up in like the 80s instead of when he did. But definitely the most successful world championship run of all time. And recently, his name's been mentioned a lot in WWE programming as Roman Reigns was chasing his record and failed to break it.
You can't break Bruno's record.
I don't think it'll ever be broken.
When I think of Bruno, and you mentioned Pittsburgh in the area and how he's famous over there, obviously, because that's where it was. But I remember going to Primani Brothers for the first time, and they had the official original Primani Brothers, not one of the side locations, and they had a mural up of famous Pittsburgh people, and I took a picture with the Bruno mural. It was awesome. And I was recently pricing out some wrestling cards that I have in my collection that I don't really fit my collection. I'm trying to trim down, so trying to release some stuff I don't need necessarily. And I did have a Bruno autograph in there I completely had forgotten about.
I have a couple Bruno 8x10s in this house somewhere signed. But yeah. What's funny is like most people in the country call pro wrestling WWF or WWE now. But here in the greater Pittsburgh area, it's always a generation or two ahead of me. It's always studio wrestling, because on Channel 11 here, that was the thing. Every Saturday night on Channel 11, WPXI, Bruno Sammartino studio wrestling would come on, and it was shot in like a small like news studio, and the crowd was a bunch of cardboard cutouts and paintings on the wall.
Now that I didn't see coming.
Yeah, it's Greg Valentine actually has a podcast where he talks about it, where basically Bruno would bring like top guys in just to beat him. Basically, it was the deal, and he would get one of those title defenses.
I mean, studio shows were the norms around that time period.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you had a crowd, it was like 3 rows per side of the ring or something.
Yeah, that's how it was here too, and they would actually have paintings on the wall to make it look like there was a bunch of people going crazy and stuff.
That guy's always excited. Yeah.
But the name of the show was Studio Wrestling.
Well, at least they weren't liars.
Right.
The NWA used to have that, you know, they'd have fans on 2 sides of the ring, 3 deep, on bleachers.
Mm-hmm.
When they brought that back with their more modern NWA Power show,
they did. They tried to recreate that look,
and it was successful early on and during COVID.
Yeah, COVID ruined that.
Yeah, it kind of petered out, but
yeah, there's only so much you could do with the nostalgia, I think.
It was pretty cool though.
So
a good thing. Oh, good.
I was going to say, out of the 3 of us, I'm probably the only one who probably watched Bruno actually wrestle.
I watched him wrestle, but not in his prime. He was towards the end of his career. I watched him wrestle the early WWF days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I caught the end of the Zbyszko Sammartino feud.
Yeah.
Larry Zbyszko in Legends, for those that don't know.
Yeah, you can recreate that classic Shea Stadium cage match.
Yeah, I was around just for that, so I didn't, you know, that was in like 1980, 81, somewhere in there. So I was just kind of getting into wrestling, and it'd be spotty. You know, we might get an hour of it here and there, and you're busy as a kid. So wrestling was always Saturday afternoons. So I remember seeing him the odd time, but it never stuck in. You know, oh yeah, this guy's, you know, their heavyweight champ, because a lot of times ours was NWA that we were catching. Just every so often, we'd get some weird channel out of Pittsburgh, and we'd get well, it could have been studio wrestling. I really don't remember.
Every channel out of Pittsburgh is probably weird. Let's just be honest. Pittsburgh.
And then, you know, I remember David Sammartino more than Bruno.
Yeah,
me too. Unfortunately,
better wrestler, David Sammartino or David Flair?
Sammartino.
Sammartino, yeah, it's hands down. Well, you know, one thing that I find interesting about his long title reign, that I'm sure that's what most people know.
How long was it? Like 8 years or something like that?
2,803 days, just under 8 years. I've actually got it up. I didn't have that memorized. I'm not going to claim that. No, but the shocking thing I didn't know, I knew he beat Buddy Rogers. He beat him in 48 seconds.
Yeah. Buddy Rogers had I found this out afterwards. He had a really bad back, and he could barely walk. So that was how they were going to do that match.
Dare you say that Bruno Sammartino is the Italian Warrior before the Ultimate Warrior? He just ran through him.
Going back to, you know, that whole the time frame on that, there was a lot of, like, that was a local legend here, like Buddy Rogers, was he or was he not going to drop the title? Like, this is a story Bruno would tell, and Bruno was picked as the guy because he would legitimately be able to beat him if he had to.
Nice.
Was the story that I always heard growing up.
Well, that's with a lot of the guys back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why Fez held on to the title, and you know, you had to be able to be the champ and to be able to actually, you know, defend it if need be.
I thought you were gonna hit us with to be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo! That's where I thought you were going with that. You said to be the champ. It looks like, according to, you know, my very reliable Wikipedia, it says they were trying to make a decision between Sammartino and Antonino Rocca, but they went with the younger because they thought he might have a longer Antonino. It says Antonino. It's got an extra N in there. Anyway, They chose him because he was younger at the time. They thought he could have a longer title reign.
Yeah.
Good call on that.
Roca had a reign too, didn't he? It wasn't as long, but
He did. So this was the decision of Vince McMahon Sr. in Toots Montt.
yes.
Good old Toots.
So apparently he was suspended at the time. They had to pay a $500 fine, allowing him to return to wrestling in the United States.
I don't know what that was about.
I don't either. It doesn't even mention it. It just says that to get him there, they had to pay it.
Huh.
It's weird looking at his accomplishments. Like this, the one that stands out for me is he won Match of the Year in 1972 because he won a Battle Royal. Because those were so rare back then.
It says here he was also a WWF International Tag Team Championship for those of you that like a lot of titles. It wasn't even
I
the
didn't
world
know those titles existed.
They beat the Rising Suns. He teamed with Tony Marino and beat the Rising Suns, Tanaka and Mitsu Arakawa.
Yep.
With Whipper Billy Watson.
Who knew that? I mean, he was known for his big matches at Madison Square Garden, though. Who do you think's more popular in Madison Square Garden, Bruno Sammartino or Billy Joel?
I think the stats say Bruno. I think he's done. Sellouts. Yeah, it was a ridiculous stat when he was at the top of the card. How many consecutive sellouts they had, and they even gave him his Hall of Fame induction since he was the headliner for that. They counted that as a Bruno Sammartino sellout at Madison Square Garden. Remember, Triple H gave him a plaque afterward or something.
He actually was a 2-time international tag team champion.
Was the other one DiNucci?
Yep, Dominic DiNucci. Look at you. Brock did not lose Bruno Sammartino in the shuffle.
No, I didn't. I only heard like from my parents and like even my grandparents would talk about him a little bit, you know.
Pittsburgh's great. We got Bruno.
Exactly. That's pretty much the extent of the conversation.
I mean, I can't argue that.
Yeah, no, the WWF tried to push him as an announcer, and he wasn't that good there.
No, it wasn't a good fit for him.
And then I remember tuning into UWF, and he was announcing there, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, it was just an odd fit. Bruno Sammartino announcing in the UWF.
The UWF was just throwing money in any former WWF guy that they could get to come in there. That's what that
isn't that what most companies do nowadays?
True, but I mean but they didn't quit. What was that Vegas show? Well, Herb Abrams. Well, I guess that's a whole topic for another time.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Dark Side of the Ring episodes, by the way.
I have not watched that series. I need to watch it.
It's pretty well done.
The Marty Jannetty one is crazy.
Yeah. I think the Herb Abrams one is my favorite, though, because I didn't know most of that. So I got most of that for the first time watching that episode. The dude was insane.
Says he had faced Stan Hansen at Madison Square Garden, suffered a neck fracture in the match. Then after 2 months, he faced Hansen again in a rematch at Shea Stadium, which was voted 1976 Match of the Year by Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And it was on the undercard of Muhammad Ali versus Antonio Inoki.
Wow.
I'm learning all kinds of things. That's what I love about the Legends, though, honestly. I mean, because I don't play Legends. We've talked about this before. I usually buy them, but I don't usually play them because I'm not a fan of just having everybody in their peak, like Kronos or something like that. I like the timeline, but I love learning about the wrestlers because I love wrestling as a business. So I love talking about the guys and learning about them.
Yeah, it is good for that because there are a lot of the names because they've pretty much done everybody.
Not quite yet.
Yeah, but Bruno's a big get though.
He is. He's a huge get.
I remember back in the early days in like 2008 when it was just Legends was just starting out. That was one of the guys that Tom would say Galacticon when he'd talk to people. Well, did you get Bruno yet? It's like, no, but we're working on him. But now they got him. So
I mean, I saw a lot of discussion on Discord about this, and I can't remember who exactly. It might have been Fusco that was talking about it. That said it's probably the biggest get they've had since Macho Man. And prior to that, it was probably Harley Race, like that made it a legitimate game.
Right.
Now, Race wasn't quite as big of a name, but I mean, he made it. You could go to other wrestlers and say, "Well, Harley's in the game." And they're like, "Oh, Harley's in it."
Well, same as Andre.
Yeah,
Andre was a pretty big one.
Yeah, Andre's a huge get too.
Well, I mean, we're from that era. We're only missing a handful, and unfortunately, they're probably guys we'll never get of the big names.
You said that about Bruno for some of them. It seems
we did. You know, I never thought we'd have Kurt Angle or, you know, who was another?
Trish Stratus.
I've never seen her. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, she's a legend for women's. I mean, she had a very important role in there.
And she came in pretty quick out of WWE, like right into the game too. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is for that era. Now you can tell people when you're trying to persuade them into, you know, allowing their likeness or whatever. Well, Bruno Sammartino's in the game. Really?
I'm interested regionally if sales in Pittsburgh skyrocket now. Broc's going to have a whole slew of people to play the game with now.
It's true.
Hopefully. Well, see, and if you know, people are watching this and wondering why we keep going off on tangents, it's because technically we're not supposed to talk about Bruno.
Yeah, we don't talk about him.
This Bruno's okay.
It's okay to talk about this Bruno?
I think so.
Not everybody watches Encanto, so not people want to get that little subtle reference.
Oh, I know all the songs.
I've watched Encanto probably 537 times.
Many times.
I saw it
that
once.
got us through the pandemic.
Because if you knew Bruno, you know he'd had a 7-foot frame with rats across his back, and I know all about that. But not this Bruno.
No, like this Bruno. When I see him, I remember there was a match I watched. For me, the most memorable match that I can really remember was when he fought Ivan Koloff.
I already got past that. That was earlier.
Oh, sorry, yeah, but I'm thinking that was.
It was January.
Koloff beat him for the title, didn't he?
Yeah.
1971 at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I wasn't alive then.
I wasn't either. Sorry.
I remember seeing that match, and that match like years later, and that match, you know, because I didn't know Ivan won the title, and I was just watching. I think it was an old WWF, you know, history of the WWF. So they're just showing clips of matches because I don't even know if they had all of them.
There was a shirt that they released, and it was a brown shirt. And I actually wore it to one of the Galacticons. I'm pretty sure I have pictures from one of the Galacticons in it, where it had the WWE Championship, and then on the back it had all the winners. And I remember it would say who lost to who and stuff. And I learned a lot from that shirt.
Yeah,
I really did. Like I studied it. Like I'm like Stan Stasiak on there and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know this.
Not a lot of people have held that title. If you think about how long it's been around, it's had just over 50 champions, I think. I think Cody Rhodes was like the 55th WWE champion.
Yeah. And it was around in 63, I think.
Yeah, probably.
The weirdest thing that I can remember about Bruno is so growing up, I was a big fan of Weird Al Yankovic, like a lot of us are.
And then
me and my buddy Craig, we took the wrestling album that came out, you know, with Real American and all that, and we changed all the words, but we had every song sing about Bruno Sammartino. And it was things like the hillbilly Jim, instead of like when I was a little bitty boy baby, I flossed my teeth on a big old tree. We had when I was when I was a little boy in Italy, I flossed my teeth on spaghetti, and we just, you know, kept changing the words to Bruno.
It reminds me of South Park when they wanted to go platinum, and so they just changed every word, like every baby, into Jesus. And they did a religious album, and then they found out that religious albums don't go platinum. They went myrrh. Hilarious episode. Not a huge South Park fan anymore. I haven't watched it in years, but that was a classic. They took Britney Spears' "Hit Me Baby One More Time," just "Hit Me Jesus One More Time." Of course, it was Cartman, so. That's kind of what it reminds me of. Just let's throw Bruno in there.
There you go.
That's literally what we did. Honky Tonk Man. I got long sideburns, hair slicked back. We had I got a long last name, hair down my back. Just making fun of Bruno.
Poor Bruno.
Poor Bruno. I mean, he lived it up. Come on.
He did. He did.
He did. And I didn't realize how strong he was. He was talking his bench press was over 450.
Yeah, and he was doing that up until the time of his death.
I mean, he was the world's strongest man, according to this, so makes sense.
Yeah, I mean I think he probably would have been pretty popular today, just as an attraction. I could see him like a Gunther type guy, just amongst today's guys. But definitely interviews and stuff. He I think he had a little bit of professional jealousy that he just missed the money era of wrestling. There was a little bit of that came across.
Apparently,
he wasn't the greatest interviewer. I've seen some interviews on him.
Yeah,
he was not good on the mic.
Well, English is a second language, which had something to do with it.
He could always have a mouthpiece.
Yeah,
he did for a little while.
Apparently, he was the special guest referee at the Thunderdome cage match between Ric Flair and Sting versus Terry Funk and Great Muta. I didn't remember that. I remember that Thunderdome match.
I didn't know he was the referee in that either. Forgot all about that.
1989, October 1989.
Him and Ric Flair had beef because Flair said he wasn't that good in his book.
Flair said a lot of things.
He did.
I read that his first book. I know I read his first book.
Yeah, that was To Be the Man, I think. I remember reading that part.
I've got it downstairs on the bookshelf.
Me too. Got it signed.
I got it signed just after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have it signed. You guys don't have to one up me. I do have a Ric Flair autograph, but not on the book.
Yeah. But like I said, it was. How would you use this guy? How would you use Bruno in your GWF fed?
I'd make him the traveling world champion.
What?
Because he didn't really get to do
everybody.
No, because he didn't really get to do that much.
See, I would have made him the strong man next to Amazing Man. It's the greatest show.
Yeah. Wonder what his power rating is going to be.
It'll be a -4.
You don't think a -5?
No, I think Mark Henry's the only -5.
Yeah, Mark Henry's going to be the only -5.
What's Andre?
I don't know.
-4.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't have the card.
So you're not sure. The answer is no. No, I'm not sure.
and I'm sure you have it on your computer, but not this computer.
No, I have it on here actually. I gotta hate on me. I'm gonna now you're gonna make me do some research. Come on, man.
It's not that important.
Right, fine. We'll talk later. I'm still reading about Bruno. I've got COTG Online up right now though, and I have the Andre card on COTG Online. I'm pretty sure because I bought those first 3 Legend sets that were in black and white on online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was back when we had a subscription. I think those were the days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll look into that. But
I think a -4 would be good.
Yeah.
For the strongest man in the world.
+1 agility.
So one thing I always like reading, you guys know Pro Wrestling Illustrated is the way a lot of us got into COTG specifically. The awards he won, Inspirational Wrestler of the Year in 1976, Match of the Year in 1972, which was a Battle Royal, 75 versus Spiros Arian. Match of the Year 76 versus Stan Hansen, 77 versus Superstar Billy Graham, and of course in 80 versus Larry Zbyszko showdown at Shea. He also was Wrestler of the Year in 1974. So, like my PWI awards.
Yeah. No, I think I'd bring him in, but I'd try to match him up with another power guy and just make a power team. Maybe like a Hercules.
Put him and Kurt Angle together. Be a fun tag team.
Oh, there's the Andre. Bringing it up now. Andre, -5 power.
There
Boom.
you go.
Okay.
Do I got to show you to prove it? Is that how it works?
I believe you.
We believe you.
All right, because that's not going to look well on the camera.
No.
But we said we do our Mount Rushmore of your favorite titles, the ones you like the most.
Well, this is going to be biased by me because who's going to go first?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
My top 4 would be the Ric Flair 10 pounds of gold belt.
Okay.
I was always a fan of that one. Second one would be the AWA Nick Bockwinkel title, like in the 80s. It was another big title that went from your waist to your rib cage. Then the NWA TV title, the one with Arn Anderson would hold. I liked it because it was silver and red. It was something you didn't see often.
Mm-hmm.
Every title was gold, and that one was silver. I think he even had a red strap.
Waved as they walked by. Sorry about that. Interruption.
Yeah. And then I liked the British Bulldog tag titles.
Okay.
And my honorable mention is probably still could be one of my top favorites as well. The Randy Savage Double Eagle for the IC title.
That was a good one. That was on my list.
Those would be my 4 favorites and honorable mention. So what do you got then, Brock?
All right, I'm going to go with the Winged Eagle WWF Championship from the 80s.
Also on my list, of course.
Winged Eagle.
The Winged Eagle.
The Double Eagle. Yeah.
I liked the old IWGP Heavyweight Championship. I thought that was a nice, but I don't like the new one. The classic one. I'm going to go with the classic Intercontinental title that Savage held. I liked whenever guys would change the colors on the strap. And Warrior started it, but then they continued it. Even like Goldust changed it.
You're stealing my picks.
I liked the WCW WCW version of the United States Championship is on my list. And my honorable mention will be the $1 Million title. Just because it was so ridiculous.
That was my first pick. You listed like 3 of my 4.
We grew up in the same era of wrestling.
Well, to me, I've always been a WWE guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I watch other things, and I wanted to include like an AWA title, but I couldn't find one I really liked when I was looking. And I mean, the 10 pounds of gold is an obvious choice, I feel like, and I just really don't like that belt. It's okay. I like it better spray painted with NWO. No, my list was the $1 Million belt. I had it on there. I just think it was such a cool idea and such a cool belt, and so few people have held it. Mm-hmm. There's only been a handful total.
Virgil.
I'm pretty sure there's a picture of you holding it because I took the picture.
Yeah, you did. It was awesome. It's kind of blurry, but it's awesome. It's one of my favorite pictures to show.
We had to do it fast.
Because Virgil had a phone call, and I was sitting by him, and I was like, hey, take a picture of me holding the belt.
That would have cost you $35 otherwise.
Nothing but respect for Virgil, but I already had pictures with him. I just wanted one with just me and the belt. Anyway, Winged Eagle was obviously on my list. I distinctly said the white Intercontinental title because I wanted it with the Ultimate Warrior, and Shawn Michaels had the white one a lot. I really liked that look. I liked that it was distinguished differently than the other title belts. And I know that colored belts were a thing of the past. Like I know that Hogan had that green belt originally and stuff, but I liked the white Intercontinental title. My 4th one I put down Daniel Bryan's Eco-Friendly World
belt
title.
Was great.
That title was so fantastic looking. I love it.
Was that the wooden one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's such a cool look. Like, it's the only time. So I'm not a belt collector. I know there's some people out there who collect belts. I almost bought that one when WWE had it for sale. I thought it was so funny and so unique. The other, I mean, I'm basic. I'm sorry, guys, but the 2014 WWE title when they went to the all black with the giant W, I thought it looked sharp. I actually liked it. It was a nice change from the the spinner belts and the other things we had seen recently. I thought it was a great classic like look.
I like it better now with the clean logo instead of that scratch logo.
Yeah, I think it looks better too. But those are my ones. I knew how the Daniel O'Brien one would get you. I didn't think anybody'd have that one, but that one was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's like I wanted to put the old UWF title on there that Doc held, but
then when you held it up, it said "FU." That one.
Can we say the worst title was probably the hardcore title?
It was supposed to be though,
and the 24/7 title was ugly.
Yeah, that looked like a toy belt.
But anyway,
what about the NWA Women's title with the picture of the champion in the middle of it?
Ooh, what about the AEW TBS title?
I don't even know that.
It looks like it says hose. The way the T, the B, and the S is. And it's a woman holding the title. It's like, why would you have a woman hold a title that says hose? Like,
yeah,
I didn't like the Divas title, the butterfly.
The butterfly belt.
Yeah. That didn't really do it either. But that was, for the era, I get it. Because a lot of the women weren't wrestlers. They were divas. I get it. But still, it was an ugly title.
The TNA titles are fairly nice.
Oh, I definitely like the women's title they have now. Jordan Grace carrying that thing around. It looks good. I mean, it looks like a respectable title.
Yeah.
I don't
ECW
really like
had nice title belts until they changed them at the end.
I didn't like the blood. Like,
well, that was the changed one. That was the updated one.
I didn't like the NXT belt when it didn't have the backing to it. It was just like the X.
Yeah, just
there,
letters.
That seemed a bit much, which is funny because I like the $1 Million belt, but
yeah,
character specific. I like somewhat character specific belts, but it can be overdone too.
The Smoking Skull belt.
The Smoking Skull belt wasn't bad, but the Brahma Bull I didn't really care.
He was carrying that around again.
The rated R with the spinner where it was pretty much mocking Cena. I get it, but
there's a story like Edge did that Chris Van Vliet show recently, and he said that he did not want to carry that title. He wanted to go back to the classic title. He thought that him winning it would make him revert back, but then he's like, they made it worse.
The R spun.
Yeah.
So what do you got, Brock?
I already did mine.
Oh, sorry.
Did you not listen? He said IWGP and everything.
Yeah, I know. As soon as he said it, I'm like, oh yeah.
Jeff just stole all mine.
No, you stole mine. No, I mean, but mine. I knew typically when we do these Mount Rushmores and whatnot, I try not to go basic. But with the wrestling titles,
there's obvious answers.
There's few ones that just stick out to me, and they remind me of my childhood. They remind me of nostalgia. And I feel like they needed to be mentioned. I mean, to me, when you look at that retrospect, it's like the Winged Eagle was Hogan, which I was a Hulkamaniac. I was born in that era. I loved Hulk Hogan. The Intercontinental title, when they finally differentiated it some by making it the colored strap, especially the white strap, is the one I remember really enjoying. And then even the $1 Million belt, that was the first, as a child, that was the first, wrestler specific title that I remember that I was like, it was created for him. And it fit his character perfectly. It was, well, if you're not going to let me win the title or buy the WWF title, then I'll just make my own. And even the vignette going into the jewelry store with the
best laughs ever he did.
Ted DiBiase has the greatest laugh. I mean, he's every 80s villain ever in action movies, and I love it. Ted DiBiase had to be like one of my all-time favorite villains.
Nice.
Well, we should wrap this up here.
Yeah, so check out the Tragos and Thez Volume 5 set releasing later this month. While you're here, please click that subscribe button. We're 2 away from our goal of 164. We're 162 as of recording, so don't anybody leave. Also, while you're here, scroll on down to the description where you'll find all of our friends who make Filsinger Games related content, including the official Filsinger Games podcast Roll Up, the Legends team's Uncharted Territory, Dizzy Dice from Lee Longpree, Grant's Pachoko's solo promoter, which is also here on YouTube. On YouTube, you also find Dave Little's Heartland Championship Wrestling, Bucky 749, and Brad Plays 81. I'm back on Twitch every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday playing a bootleg fed, 9 p.m. Eastern. Check that out. Sorry, I'm going fast. We're running out of time. So we'll see you all next time, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.
See you
See you
later.
later.